Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to welcome you to our two-day webinar, piccure Plus Basics. My name is Dirk Ewald. I'm the Sales and Business Development Director for Germany, Austria and Switzerland from piccure. And you can see my contact details right now, but you don't need to write it down. I will copy and paste my contact details afterwards in our chat, so you can also copy them. Before we start, I'd like to introduce our webinar system. We're working with GoToWebinar. And on the right hand side of your monitor you can find a small toolbar, and when you click on the red button of the toolbar you will get the entire GoToWebinar menu, and there I kindly ask you to click on full screen so you can join our webinar in full screen mode. Who we are. Some background information about piccure. piccure Plus is high-tech made in Germany. We're founded by professors and PhDs in 2011, supported by the Ministry of Trade and Commerce in the state of Baden-Württemberg. You may know us from several magazines, I think, and since we released the first version of piccure, which was just a camera shake reduction tool, of course we have constantly improved our software and our application, and we now have more than one application. We've got a wider area of applications. So piccure contains Lens Plus and Motion Plus, and also we have developed a denoising tool which is also embedded in piccure. What is piccure capable of? Most of the photographers are waiting for a world revolution in lens correction, and that's what we can do with piccure. We correct optical aberrations such as chromatic aberrations or lens softness, and we don't need a lens profile for that. The optical aberrations are measured within every single image you have, so we don't need a lens profile of your lens which you have used to make this picture. This is particularly interesting for medium format and full frames cameras and high resolution images where you can see those blurs and those softness a little bit more than in less resolution pictures. But it's also suitable for self-built lenses and for scanned images. Most of you will say, well, self-built lenses, yes, in macro photography or deep space photography, there are also used self-built lenses, so also that can be corrected by Lens Plus. The second part of piccure is Motion Plus. Motion Plus corrects small, medium, and even large camera shakes. We will have an example picture afterwards in our webinar of a little bit harder camera shake that you can see what you can do with Motion Plus. Particularly it's useful for small or micro shakes, even if you take your pictures with a tripod, you also can have micro shakes within a picture, so that can be reduced and corrected by Motion Plus. And as mentioned, we've got a denoising tool. This denoising tool is part of Lens Plus and Motion Plus, so you've got it everywhere in piccure. Where do blurs come from? A little bit, some more information about optical aberrations, motion blur and out of focus, the three different reasons for blur within your pictures. At first we'll take a look at the optical aberrations. This means you have deviations between lenses. So if you now today buy a lens and you buy a lens next week, they won't be the same. So if you work with a camera profile or a lens profile, this lens profile won't fit to every lens, just to the lens which is measured. This blur within the pictures coming from the lens, from the aberrations, from the optical aberrations, you can decrease a little bit by slowing down the aperture, for example. You have more blur towards the edges of the picture, and the color ringing, that's the chromatical aberration you have, and you can decrease this by slower apertures, but mostly you don't have the possibility to do that. So you need to live with the chromatical aberrations, with the color ringing, and with the blur in the edges. So you don't have the same aberrations in the entire picture, and it's not the same with different settings of your lens. So if you have a slower aperture, for example, it's have the different a different strongness or different kind of aberrations within your picture. The next one is the motion blur. That's what we reduce with motion plus. You have camera movements during your exposure, so that causes this blur. Um, Motion blur is usually all over the picture in the same way, in the same strongness. So we can detect this motion blur and we can do a reverse engineering and recalculate this camera shake and delete it from your picture. I'm gonna show you this afterwards in the webinar with Motion Plus on a really hard shake picture. Um, the next version or the next kind um, of blur is out of focus. Um, to be honest, it cannot be corrected in every case. Usually it can't be corrected, to be honest. That's what you took when you have a photo from, and you have a portrait photo token, and we have the background, which is sharp, and we have got the person in the foreground, which is not sharp. So we have just an out of focus problem within your picture that usually also can't be corrected by Motion Plus. Why could be lens profiles a little bit problematic? Um, you've got we have got different lens settings, which is important, and we have, of course, manufacturing deviations. So not every lens is the same, and not the measured lens, which is measured by the manufacturer, is not your lens. So you have got a different lens between the master, which is a lens profile, for example, and your lens at home. Um, this can be quite significant. It can be better in the last years, but you still have these differences between the lenses. Everybody knows about someone loves a lens and the other one hates that lens. So that's maybe caused in this lens-to-lens deviation because not every lens is the same. We've got a lot of combinations of focal length, of zooms, of aperture, focus points, which also can't be measured for a lens profile and put into lens profile. So that's the reason why really reverse optical aberrations or reverse engineering of a picture with a lens profile is usually not possible, or just in a lower case possible. What's new about piccure Plus? We've got a deconvolution, so we are working with a two-step approach to correct this optical aberration. The first step, we determine based in the image itself, which is called point spread functions we use. This is a mathematically description of the error, of the mistake you have within the picture. And afterwards, we do the we recalculate an aberration-free image. So that means it's deconvolution based on this point spread functions and not based on the lens profile. That's very important because you can use it in every picture. It doesn't matter if it's a scan picture or if it's a lens or whatever you used, because we just calculate and we just measure this this error within your picture, and then we recalculate and reconstruct the original picture. There's no other solution worldwide which can work the same way like we do, so that's really really a worldwide new feature. I'd like to just give you a quick overview of what's embedded within piccure Plus. We've got Lens Plus, which corrects the optical aberrations, and Motion Plus for the camera shakes we already had. There are 3 different quality settings, which give the photographers the chance to divide or decide between speed and quality. And it's of course depending on the intensity of blur you have within your picture. So you just can say, well, if I do a photo with an aperture of 5.6, this should be a setting of micro than piccure Plus, usually for slower than 5.6. If we have usually up to 3.5. You use normal in piccure plus, and usually for fast apertures you have the strong setting within piccure. And at the end of our webinar, within the chat, I'd like to post you an extension code for your trial version. So if your trial has expired, you can use this extension code for the next 14 days. And of course, we have a special offer for all our webinar attendees. So you can purchase, if you like, piccure plus within our web shop with a discount of 15%. So I think we should start, and we switch directly to piccure plus. And before we start working on some pictures, I'd just like to introduce you the user interface. So there are some interesting points of the user interface you should know. At first, you can select the folder where the project information are saved just by clicking on this button right here. And the next, which is important, is the menu button with the most important link, which is called Advanced Lens Plus. You can see in the background we've got now 3 selections. We've got 3 qualities we can adjust. If we deactivate it, we just have 2. So please activate the Advanced Lens Plus. And also, which is important, just click on About, so you get your actually piccure plus version, and you've got the possibility to directly send us a support email. If you have some technical issues, just send a mail to us. Here you can decide which kind of rendering quality you like to have. Speed is the fastest, but with the lowest quality, and quality plus, of course, the highest quality and the slowest rendering version. You can say what kind of optical aberration, how hard is the optical aberration within your picture, from micro up to strong. That's what we were talking about in the presentation before. And you can adjust your sharpness if you like. And what we also said, that you have a denoise function. You can activate, enable or disable a denoise function. And of course, you can reset or save the settings you made above. We've got another part of piccure, which is called the project manager. I will come back to the project manager after we did some pictures and we worked on some pictures, just to show you how to create a new project and how to do a batch processing, for example, in Photoshop. Photoshop, or also batch processing directly in piccure. We've got different views, which we also take a look at when we edit one picture. And of course, we've got a process and a cancel button. I think I don't know, didn't need to say anything about that. So I like to start by taking a look at the first picture. We will do this picture at the beginning, and we will take a look at some chromatical aberrations. Those chromatical aberrations we have in this picture are just caused by a fast aperture. So when we take a look at the let us take a look at this area. You can see this green and red aberrations here. While I will zoom in a little bit, you can see this green and this red aberration here. So while just calculating a preview to see what happens, and you see, okay, we just still have the aberrations, and it's not the best way because we just calculated with a lower rendering quality. Now we can say we should calculate it again with a higher rendering quality, and you will see that the aberrations will be removed and the quality of the picture will be much better than before. In this area where the project manager was before, when we were on the project overview, we now have our navigator. This navigator means that you can move this red marked up area anywhere to the picture, and you can see the this part of the picture within your before and after view. In this case, we've got the split screen view, so you have the original picture on the left hand side and the corrected picture on the right hand side, and we have the possibility to use the other view here. That's the split screen view. I have to apologize, the before was the side-by-side view, and that's the split screen view, where you can move your image and you can see what happens within your image. And last but not least, we've got the entire view, so we just see the corrected image here. I personally prefer the split screen view because you can check your image at every place within the picture to see what happens directly in this picture. So we see the quality is getting much better, but we still have some aberrations here. So we say this could be a stronger aberration, and we now just recalculate our picture again to see what happens with this aberration when we say this is a strong aberration and we like to reduce it. What's very important when you are working on such pictures and you're calculating in quality plus rendering, this takes a while. So the best way to do is to just take your settings with a smaller part of the picture, with a preview of a smaller part of the picture, save the settings, and afterwards you can process this in batch processing. So as we can see right now, the aberrations has gone. So we don't have the green and the red line here within the picture, and we now can click on process as we like. So the entire image is being calculated. Or what we now do is we just clicking on save, and we also can cancel this. We just need to save the settings at least, and we now can process this picture in batch processing afterwards. I will show you how that works, how the batch processing is working. We don't do the batch processing at least, but just show you how to set it up. So we go back to our project overview, and in this project overview we have the possibility to select which pictures should be processed in a batch processing. Those one which are marked up blue are already processed, and which are marked up gray are not processed, and now can just activate or deactivate which image should be processed with the settings I made before. I'm gonna take a look at this picture in the next step just to show you something more. For example, show you something about denoising. I will start this picture and I will give you a short overview of our denoising tool. I will zoom into 100% so we can see the noise. So we've got here really hard noise within the sky, and I just do the denoise in this picture, nothing else, just to show you the denoising function. And this has been calculated very fast, of course. So at the left hand side we've got the original picture, and on the right hand side is still calculating. We will get the denoised picture. The most important thing is that we have no less in sharpness. Usually if you do denoising tools within your images, you just have a quality reducement in sharpness. We don't have that because we are correcting the optical error within the picture by using Lens Plus. That's important because if you try to reduce the noise within a picture with a lot of structures, for example, you will have less sharpness afterwards. So that's not necessary within this tool within piccure Plus, because in piccure Plus we just have a denoising function, which is really good because it just works together with the Lens Plus functions, and it corrects the optical aberrations and not just the noising. So it has been already calculated in the background, so we can cancel this. You have seen what happens if we just denoise the picture, and we will go to another one. I don't want to save the settings. We will go to the picture with a small spider here. And this is a picture I have already calculated in the past. So we can see the before and the after right now because it's already processed. That's the spider before, that's the spider after. But we just said we have some smaller optical aberrations, and I can set, okay, we have a little bit harder optical aberrations. Can you recalculate the picture with my new settings? We're right now nearly at the entire picture, so that will take a few minutes to calculate. Don't be irritated if you using a raw file from a Nikon D800 or whatever with about 50 or 70 megabyte. This could take up to 5 to 10 minutes to calculate such a picture. So that's the reason why I just cancel this right now, and I will zoom in a little bit within this picture just to show you, for example, this area, this plant where the spider is sitting on, just to see what happened here. That's the picture before and that's after. You get a really clear picture afterwards. I'm now going to show you how to work with the project manager within piccure. You just can double click on create a new project, and we'll do that, and we'll call it Motion Plus. And if you start a new project, you have the possibility to click on this button to put some images within your project. The next possibility is just to use the Windows Explorer, for example, and go by drag and drop. I'll use this picture and just drag and drop the picture within your Motion Plus project. Next we switch to Motion Plus and we will open our picture. In Motion Plus we've got a little difference here within the settings we can do. Of course we don't have optical aberrations within Motion Plus. We've got the camera shake intensity which can be adjusted. So in the first case I would just say I like to say this could be a medium camera shake. To be honest, this was an earthquake and nothing else. This is a really hard camera shake. But we just say in the first step that's just a medium camera shake, and we like to render a preview. We go to 75% in this case. We like to render a preview just with a lower rendering quality to see if we can do something within this picture, if we can reconstruct the original image. I click on preview, and what happens now is that the Motion Plus preview has just been calculated with the lowest rendering quality, of course. But as you can see, it's getting much better than before. So the next step would be that I say, well, I like to see this in a good quality, so I use Quality Plus as a rendering quality. This, of course, takes a little bit longer to render this image in a much higher quality, but it's already done. So now we can see this could be the result with Quality Plus with the highest quality. When we take a look at this picture, we see that we have still some ghosting images right here in this area, and we like to reduce those ghosting images also. And then you've got the possibility to press the Alt key at your keyboard and click within the left mouse button within the picture and place a smart spot. The best case where you can place a smart spot is between different colors with hard contrast, as for example here. Within the smart spot, Motion Plus is now checking the error within the picture again. It looks in detail, and we now calculate a new preview with the same settings, just by setting this additional smart spot to see what happens. Also, this will take a few seconds because we're just rendering again with the highest rendering quality, and you see this ghosting images are reduced a little bit more. We're gonna zoom out a little bit to see more of this picture, and you see this area is still unsharpened. This is still with the camera shake with the motion blur, and this part of the picture is corrected. That's the reason why that's caused by the preview part we had. We just calculated, of course, the preview for the part we had of the pictures, not for the entire picture. So we now will calculate by clicking on Process these settings for our entire image, just to see what happened. And I think we should go in detail and take a look in our details of the pictures and of the picture, and I think we're also going to zoom into 100% to see which quality of motion correction of camera shake we have within the picture by using Motion Plus. Of course, this takes some seconds more when we are rendering with the highest quality the entire picture, so it depends, of course, of the hardware system you have. Your faster machine is the faster the image rendering will processed, and of course it could take up to, I think, 3 to 5 minutes, depends on the image and the hardware you have. I think in this case we will been processed in a few seconds. So we're gonna take a look afterwards in some details, like the persons within the picture we can see here, or maybe when you take a look at the navigator right hand side, we're gonna take a look at 100% in this area and also at this area, just to see what Motion Plus is correcting in this image. And what we will do, we will set another smart spot, maybe here or maybe here, just to correct the last ghosting images we have within the picture, so we also can reduce those. To be honest, this would be a picture, the original picture, with I personally have deleted directly after taking a look at it first time, because I personally do wedding photography, and when I'm, for example, in church or wherever, where I've no light available, or just do my photos with available light and I've got less light, um, I've got the chance to have some motion blur within my pictures because of camera shake, and usually I delete those pictures. But in this case, we can use Motion Plus and we can correct this. We can rescue that picture, and now it's calculated. We will set another smart spot. Let's go down to 25% just to see what happened. We will set another smart spot here, and we'll calculate a new preview for that. So I'm quite sure that we will also reduce the last ghosting within the picture. Of course, the preview I'm now calculating takes nearly the same time to calculate than the processing, because we have selected nearly the entire picture that needs to be um, rendered in the highest quality. So we also have to wait a few seconds. But as you can see right now in the picture, the left-hand side, that's before, and the right-hand side, that's after. That's amazing difference. And this difference is one of the how I don't know how to say it. That's Motion Plus is worldwide the only software which can do such a correction with camera shakes. There's no other software worldwide which can produce such results. We're gonna zoom in to 100%. Let's do 75% just to see what happens down here with our person we have within the picture. I've just calculated the preview up to this area. So at the left hand side you can see this guy with a blue base cap, and on the right hand side you can see the corrected version. That's an amazing difference between those pictures. Don't be irritated, we just have calculated the preview, so this area has not been processed so far. If we click on process, we will have this in the entire picture. But we don't do it right now, because we just go back to our Motion Plus project manager. We just have one picture with the project manager. We just can click on process, and those single picture would be processed right now. If we have 20 pictures within this project, all of the 20 pictures, as far as they marked up, would be processed.